Coming up on Arirang News. South Korea's military says North Korea is reconstructing guard posts along its border with the South, which had been taken down under the 2018 Inter-Korean Military Agreement. The regime appears to be deploying soldiers and heavy artillery, following its announcement last week to terminate the pact. It's only a day to go until the decision will be made on which city will host the World Expo 2030 among Busan, Riyadh, and Rome. We take a look at what to expect from final presentations to voting. With a 4-day ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas reaching an end, the international community is pressing for an extension until all hostages are released. Good evening, it's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We begin with South Korea's military saying that the North is rebuilding its guard posts near the border, which had been taken down under the 2018 Inter-Korean Military Agreement. This follows the regime's announcement to terminate the pact a day after Seoul partially suspended the accord in response to Pyongyang's military spy satellite launch last week. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung leads us off.
The South Korean military has detected that North Korea has recently been working to restore its guard posts in the demilitarized zone right after it announced last week that it would restore all military measures and terminate the September 19th Inter-Korean Military Agreement.
North Korea declared the complete abolition of the September 9th military agreement on November 23rd. And since November 24th, the regime has been implementing measures to restore its military activities.
Pictures revealed by the military on Monday show that North Korea has dispatched soldiers and heavy weapons to restore its surveillance posts near the inter-Korean border. North Korean soldiers were also spotted on guard duty at night. Under the 2018 Inter-Korean Military Agreement, North Korea destroyed 10 out of its 11 guard posts near the border as part of efforts to reduce tensions. However, restoration efforts are now being seen at all 11 guard posts. The military added that North Korea's provocations have worsened near the maritime border as well, as the number of opened coastal artillery gun ports has significantly increased. South Korea's defense ministry says the military will be fully prepared to immediately implement countermeasures.
We clearly state that our military is closely monitoring North Korea's provocations and is fully prepared to punish North Korea immediately, strongly, and to the end, based on Seoul and Washington's strengthened joint defense posture.
Speaking to reporters on Monday, the new chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Kim Myung-soo, hinted at the possibility of restoring South Korea's guard posts as a corresponding measure, saying that it comes down to how the, quote, enemy decides to act. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol also ordered the chiefs of the Defense Ministry and JCS to maintain a firm military readiness posture so that the citizens can feel secure. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
South Korean military officials say North Korea's recent military spy satellite is orbiting the Earth stably. The officials, however, add it's still too soon to verify the satellite's reconnaissance capability. Our North Korean affairs correspondent Kim Jung-sil reports.
A week has passed since Pyongyang launched a military reconnaissance satellite on the night of November 21st. On Monday, South Korea's Ministry of National Defense announced the results of an analysis of the spy satellite.
North Korea's so-called military reconnaissance satellite is currently believed to have entered orbit. This launch poses a great threat to our national security as, based on its ICBM-based technology, it can be used to launch nuclear weapons.
Military officials in Seoul also told reporters that the satellite is orbiting the Earth properly, but remained puzzled as to Pyongyang's claims that the satellite captured images of military bases in South Korea and the U.S. The officials added it usually takes months to verify the operational status of a satellite. Pyongyang's satellite launch led the UN Security Council to convene an emergency meeting in New York on Monday local time. 8 countries, including the US, the UK, and Japan, are participating, as well as South Korea.
Since the strategic value of North Korea has become very high, it might be difficult to get a meaningful resolution passed from the UNSC meeting, with China and Russia taking the North side, instead of blaming it.
North Korea's state-run KCNA cited a foreign ministry official on Monday who said the satellite launch was a legal and righteous exercise of self-defense and that those who try to, quote, violate the sovereignty of North Korea will face consequences.
North Korean provocations are not only a threat to South Korea, but also a serious threat to liberal democracies around the globe. It's very important for South Korea, the US, and Japan to strengthen security cooperation, especially in Northeast Asia.
Professor Kim added making good use of agreements made at the Camp David summit back in August would be essential. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
Top diplomats of Seoul, Tokyo, and Beijing held trilateral talks in the port city of Busan this past weekend, agreeing to speed up efforts to resume their leaders' summit that hasn't been held in over 4 years. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji reports.
Top diplomats of South Korea, Japan, and China sat down for talks on Sunday and agreed to expedite preparations for the upcoming summit between their leaders. The 3 officials met here at the Nurimaru APEC House in Busan and reaffirmed their efforts to hold a trilateral summit at the earliest convenient time. Following the meeting that lasted for about an hour and a half, Seoul's Foreign Minister Park Jin explained that the 3 officials have decided to put trilateral cooperation back on track as soon as possible.
We'll continue to work to make sure that the holding of the summit can be materialized in the near future.
Park's Japanese and Chinese counterparts Yoko Kamikawa and Wang Yi also highlighted the importance of cooperation between the 3 countries.
China will work together with South Korea and Japan to put the trilateral cooperation back on track and maintain a sound and steady development of trilateral relations.
I hope today's foreign ministers meeting could become the opportunity for the 3 countries to resume trilateral cooperation.
The last summit between the presidents of the 3 countries was held in December 2019 in China. It has not taken place for more than 4 years, largely due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but also because of strained relations between Seoul and Tokyo. South Korea, as the chair of the upcoming summit, had hoped to hold the meeting before the end of this year. But the 3 countries have yet to agree on a specific date, and with a little more than a month remaining, arranging a meeting in 2023 is proving difficult. The Korean government is now reportedly aiming for it to take place sometime early next year. Meanwhile, ahead of the 3-way talks, Park also held separate meetings with his Japanese and Chinese counterparts. While meeting the Chinese foreign minister, Park urged Beijing to play a constructive role in persuading North Korea to halt provocations. In response, Wang said China has always played and will continue to play the role needed to help stabilize the situation on the Korean peninsula. During talks with Japan's foreign minister, the 2 sides discussed issues including a recent South Korean High Court ruling that ordered the Japanese government to compensate victims of Japan's wartime sexual slavery. Park reiterated Seoul's position that it respects the agreement made in 2015 with Tokyo, which says the 2 countries agreed to finally and irreversibly resolve the issue. But Kamikawa called the court verdict extremely regrettable and urged South Korea to take appropriate measures. Bae Eun-ji, Arirang News, Busan.
President Yoon Suk-yeol is back home, having concluded a week-long trip to Europe that started with a state visit to London and a final pitch for Busan's Expo bid in Paris. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young has the highlights of the trips.
Seoul is building its clout as a trusted security partner in the Indo-Pacific region. That's according to experts following President Yoon Suk-yeol's visit to the United Kingdom and France last week. Emphasising their shared values of freedom, human rights and the rule of law, Yoon's Downing Street Accord with UK leader Rishi Sunak showed an unprecedented level of security cooperation between the 2 sides, featuring deals on supply chains and the development of sensitive dual-use technologies. Co-developing artificial intelligence and quantum technologies to target North Korean missiles, as well as cybersecurity, which could act as a bridge to strengthen Seoul's links with the Five Eyes intelligence group,
consisting of the UK, the United States, New Zealand, Australia and Canada, was also part of the deal.
The willingness to share intelligence with other countries, in this case South Korea, shows a high level of trust in the government of South Korea, also in the intelligence gathering capabilities of South Korea, the military of South Korea as well, right? So in a sense, it's proof that South Korea is considered to be a reliable partner by all these countries. Now, on top of that, these countries can gather intelligence that South Korea cannot. For example, in the Middle East, for example, in Russia. Even if we look at China, for example, they have different assets.
Seoul also reaffirmed its value-based cooperation with Paris, agreeing to work together on AI and quantum technology as Presidents Yoon and Macron exchanged views on North Korea's weapons collaboration with Russia and the conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East, particularly as South Korea begins its 2-year tenure as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council next year. South Korea has also been looking to multilateral platforms and like-minded partners to tackle global challenges that threaten peace, freedom and the rule of law in the international community.
First of all, because we have seen, as a result of growing US-China competition, but also the Trump administration being in office in the past, South Korea has been looking at other potential partners, not to replace the US, but really to complement what it gets from the US-Japan cooperation with Korea is very much driven by specific security threats. And I think in the case of Europe, this is not necessarily the case.
Beyond security and economic interests, South Korea has also grown its capacity to contribute to global development. The country's bid to host the 2030 World Expo has been highlighted as the chance to foster global solidarity towards the goals of tackling inequality, climate change, and emerging digital challenges that affect all societies. Presenting Busan as the world's solutions platform based on Korea's own transformation from a war-torn nation to a digital and cultural powerhouse, Yoon has held over 150 summits with 96 countries since its inauguration last year. Oh Seong, Arirang News.
The Korea One team, consisting of the government, business community, and Busan City, is making a last-minute push for the South Korean port city's 2030 World Expo bid ahead of the vote by the Bureau International des Expositions in Paris on Tuesday. After arriving in the French capital on Sunday, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo engaged in diplomatic activities to garner support for the 2030 Busan World Expo. On Monday, he plans to participate in various meetings, including luncheons and seminars, with delegates from BIE member states to articulate Busan's vision and competence. Leaders of South Korean firms are also putting forth efforts with the strategy of meeting country representatives with a request for cooperation, persuading them to expand business opportunities through the Busan Expo. The Citizens Committee bid for the 2030 Busan World Expo is also boosting final promotional activities, showcasing the city's competitiveness through events such as traditional hanbok experiences at Paris landmarks. And it's only a day to go until the decision will be made on which city will host the World Expo 2030 among South Korea's Busan, Italy's Rome, and Riyadh of Saudi Arabia. Our Yoon takes a look at what to expect from their fifth and final presentations to voting.
The host city of the World Expo 2030 will be selected on Tuesday by the member states of the BIE at its 173rd General Assembly held in France. The meeting is scheduled to start at 9 in the morning with Expo progress reports. Then in the following order, the Republic of Korea's Busan, Italy's Rome, and Saudi Arabia's Riyadh will give their fifth and final presentations on their Expo projects for about 20 minutes each. Following this, the 182 member states will cast their sole votes for the World Expo 2030 host city. A candidate must get 2/3 of the votes cast to be selected outright. If no candidate achieves this target, there will be a second round of voting after the third-placed candidate is eliminated, and the winner of a simple majority will be selected. The voting is scheduled for 4 p.m. local time, midnight on Wednesday in South Korea. Shortly after the voting is completed, the results will be revealed through the BIE's official account on X, formerly known as Twitter. Professor Lee Shin-hwa from Korea University shared with Arirang News her hopeful speculations on what message the final presentation should convey at this stage of the bid. Although Riyadh's bid, backed with a budget of over 7 billion euros, will not be easy to beat, Professor Yi said that she hopes Busan's representatives will give inspiring speeches and share the city's hopeful energy with others.
I'm hoping that Busan will be able to show its convening power to other candidates through its own success story in terms of economic, political, and cultural development. Events like expos act as a learning platform where countries share their unique potential and hold a national discourse. I believe Busan is a perfect place to be a bridge for other cities to share their success stories and vision.
Amid growing interest in who will be on stage for the final presentation, internationally influential individuals are expected, with people anticipating mentions of BTS to Ban Ki-moon, the former UN Secretary General. Lee In-hee, Arirang News.
In other news, the number of young people in South Korea is dwindling at a rapid rate as more of them are choosing to stay unmarried and not have children. According to Statistics Korea on Monday, the number of those aged between 19 and 34 is predicted to drop by half by 2050, as over 4 in every 5 of those in that age bracket were unmarried as of 2020. In particular, over 56% of 30 to 34-year-olds were unmarried, 3 times higher than figures recorded in 2000. In 1990, young people made up nearly a third of the total population. 30 years later, in 2020, they were just over 1/5. By 2050, they were projected to account for just 11%. A fifth of those in this age group are also living alone, with more than half residing in the capital region. Starting next year, foreign workers with E9 non-professional employment visas will be permitted to work at restaurants in South Korea. According to the Ministry of Employment and Labor on Monday, the range of industries for E9 visas holders has been expanded to restaurants as well as mining and forestry sectors. It has also decided to bring over a record-breaking 165,000 non-professional migrant workers next year, which is 45,000 more this year. This comes amid growing labor shortages in a number of industries. Manufacturing will accept the largest number of non-professional employees at 95,000, followed by agriculture and livestock at around 16,000. President Yoon Suk-yeol and First Lady Kim Gun-hee rolled up their sleeves to make kimchi for underprivileged citizens, encouraging more volunteerism to create a warm and caring society. The first couple on Monday attended a nationwide kimchi sharing event that brought together over 2,000 participants, including youth, senior citizens, North Korean defectors, and volunteers from over 200 government bodies to make the fermented cabbage side dish using ingredients sourced from various parts of the country. Yoon reflected on the diverse ingredients and seasoning becoming fermented and maturing to create a harmonious dish, stressing the spirit of unity. The event was held simultaneously in 17 metropolitan cities and provinces and 45 smaller cities and counties and districts across the country, involving some 6,000 people, with videos shared in real time. According to the top office, some 172,000 kilograms of kimchi made at the venues will be distributed to those in need. Turning to the war in the Middle East, 17 additional hostages have been released on the third day of a 4-day ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Amid calls from the international community urging an extension of the pause, Israel appears open to prolonging the ceasefire. However, it emphasizes that a ground operation will resume at the end of the agreement. Our Shin-Young reports.
As the temporary ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is set to end on Monday, the international community is urging an extension of the truce. According to AFP on Sunday, France has expressed a need for the ceasefire to continue until all hostages kidnapped by Hamas are released. During an interview with French media, French Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna urged for the release of the hostages from France and other countries, emphasizing the necessity for a further ceasefire. Earlier, U.S. President Biden also hoped a pause in the fighting would go on as long as hostages were getting released.
That's my goal. That's our goal, to keep this pause going beyond tomorrow so that we can continue to see more hostages come out and surge more humanitarian relief into those in need in Gaza.
Egypt and the Netherlands have agreed on the need to extend a truce in the Gaza Strip and take urgent action to deliver humanitarian aid to the Palestinians. Other Arab countries, including Saudi Arabia and Jordan, have also emphasized the importance of extending the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. On the third day of hostage releases on Sunday, Hamas released 17 hostages, including 13 Israelis, in exchange for 39 Palestinians who had been held in Israeli detention centers. 33 of the Palestinians released by Israel were teenagers. The Associated Press reports that Hamas is willing to release more hostages in exchange for an extended ceasefire. Citing sources close to the Palestinian militant group, they are willing to release an additional 20 to 40 hostages. With 58 hostages being released in the first 3 days of the 4-day temporary ceasefire, so far it's still short of the reported 240 people taken captive by Hamas on October 7. Meanwhile, in a video statement to President Biden, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he is open to extending the current ceasefire, but once it is over, the military's ground operation will return in full force. 신하영, Arirang News.
The number of people killed by floods from heavy rain in Somalia have climbed to nearly 100. Somalia's state news agency SANA reported the death toll was 69 as of Saturday. The East and Horn of Africa, including Somalia, have been battered by relentless heavy rain that began in October. The floods are caused by the El Niño and Indian Ocean dipole weather phenomena, both of which are climate patterns that impact ocean surface temperatures and cause above-average rainfall. The intense rain has unleashed widespread flooding across the country, triggering displacement and exacerbating an already existing humanitarian crisis. According to the United Nations, the flooding has been described as the worst in decades and has displaced about 700,000 people. Moving on, K-pop rookie girl group Baby Monster has topped several iTunes top songs charts globally with its debut single Batter Up, released on Monday. According to its agency YG Entertainment, the group ranked first in the charts in 14 countries, including Thailand, Chile, and Vietnam. It also was the first K-pop band this year to place its debut song in the top 50 of the US Top Songs chart. The song's music video also reached over 14 million views after it was released on Monday. Baby Monster is a new 6-member girl group signed to YG 7 years after Blackpink debuted in 2016.
This is Park So-hee, Arirang's new weathercaster. I'm going to provide you with the latest weather updates from now on. Showers will continue to be in the forecast until tomorrow morning in most areas. In some regions, these showers might turn into snowflakes. Slippery roads are possible, so please be extra careful when driving or walking outside. This rain has brought frigid air nationwide. The sub-zero cold will stay throughout this whole week. Dry weather alerts are issued for the coastlines of Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-do provinces. Dry conditions are intensifying throughout the eastern parts of the country. With gusty winds, extra caution is necessary with anything that could catch a fire. Tomorrow, Seoul will open up the morning at -3 degrees, Gwangju and Daegu 4 degrees Celsius. Daily highs in Seoul will come back to the positive range around 3 degrees. Chuncheon also 3, Busan 11 degrees. The cold is expected to peak on Thursday, with morning temperatures in Seoul dropping to -7 degrees. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that wraps up this newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 10 p.m. with our AI headline news. Hope everyone has a great start of the week.